I understand that this game is incredibly hated, but I was watching some gameplay from it the other day, and I was like, hot take, it doesn't look that bad. There was almost a part of me that was like, I kind of want to try it out. But yeah, let's check it out then. What's the title? Sweet Baby's Suicide Squad KTJL Kill the Justice League, causes massive 41% loss in video game revenue for Warner Brothers. Ooh. Was Sweet Baby Inc. involved with this game? Man, it just seems wherever they go, they leave the place burning down, don't they?
Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is an absolute monstrosity that lost Warner Brothers hundreds of millions of dollars, and now we're finding out that it has spurred even bigger losses because they have seen a double-digit drop in Warner Brothers gaming revenue because of this title. I have a few different things to—
Wait. I think that's a bit of a reach to say that the entire division lost. Well, actually, I suppose the division itself has probably lost money, but it's not going to have affected the other games. People are not going to be like, well, I'm not playing that because of this, right? Did I take that? I think I took that wrong.
A double-digit drop in Warner Brothers gaming dollars, and now we're finding out that it has spurred even bigger losses because they have seen a double-digit drop in Warner Brothers gaming revenue because of this title. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community.
I thought she was saying something that she wasn't saying there. It's my bad.
In my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, we knew from the announcement of this game that it was going to be a nightmare because we saw that they were basically throwing away characters that made the Arkhamverse so—
Dude, it was kind of wild how they killed like Batman and stuff though. Shot him on a park bench. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
So special. And they were going to be trying
you can't
to
do the big man like that.
New modern vision with the Arkhamverse. That was never going to work, and clearly it lost them a lot of money, and now they've reported that their gaming—
I think for me, potentially, I think that one of the issues I had was, if you're going to do the Suicide Squad, fine. I just think going on the Kill the Justice League thing was just kind of like a title grab. I think they could have done much better stories for the Suicide Squad. That's the thing, when I see comic book games, like, screw the pooch so hard, I'm just like, man, all of the different stories that you could work on, and like, you know, they'll choose particular ones or they'll go off on their own. It's just like, why? It's all there for you. It's laid out. It's ready to go.
Revenue has suffered a major drop this quarter from the same period last year, largely due to the awful performance of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Now, last year, they did see lots of success, primarily because of Hogwarts Legacy.
Banger game. Banger. My game of 2023, Hogwarts Legacy, was another game that shows that boycotts don't work. Remember how everybody wasn't going to buy Hogwarts Legacy because J.K. Rowling is the second coming of Hitler and she's the worst person ever, and you don't buy the game? That game sold like, what, 30-odd million copies or something like that? And in my opinion, was just a fucking slapper. Absolute banger of a game. I really enjoyed it, and it's getting a sequel as well, I believe.
Made them a boatload of money, and it ended up selling 22 million copies in 2023 alone, and has since reached 24 million copies alone. But
okay, I was wrong. It sold 24 million copies, not 35 million. Take it back. I take it back. If I'd have just read a few sentences there, I would have heard what I was saying was total bullshit. There you go. I'm a fucking idiot. 24 million copies. Still
now,
insane.
Of course, this year, they don't have a success like Hogwarts Legacy. They truly, it seems, thought that—
Wild, isn't it, that, you know, taking something, a box price game, single player game, and then trying to turn it into potentially a live service didn't really work. Now, I've not got an issue with live service games at all. I haven't. But I just think something like Suicide Squad should have been a single-player game. And I forgot the dev team that works on it now. They're the same dev team that worked on a lot of the Arkham games, yeah. They make single-player games. You should have let them do what they did well, you know. I think, as well, a lot of this stuff comes from, though, over the last few years of game developers thinking that single-player games were a dying breed because of all the multiplayer stuff banging so much. But there's only so much space for big multiplayer titles to do really well, isn't there? There's still a massive desire for single-player, premium, box price one-time play games, but developers are just so desperate. Well, not so much developers, publishers are so desperate for that reoccurring revenue that they just end up losing everything. They don't get the box price, they don't get the reoccurring revenue, and then you get things like this happening, and they lose a massive amount of the revenue overall as well.
Kill the Justice League was going to be a big live service title that was going to gain them a lot of attention, and it didn't. It ended up being a gigantic failure. It says games revenue under the Warner Brothers Games division dropped 41% year over year. Though Suicide Squad struggles were the main culprit, it was admittedly up against stiff competition. Last year's comparable included strong sales of Hogwarts Legacy, which launched in February of 2023 and continued to do exceedingly well throughout the year. This could have.
Dude, I was begging for a DLC for that game. I was even on the Twitter saying, can you just give us a DLC? And they were like, we're not. They actually responded, they're like, we ain't got any plans for it. And I was like, fuck, man. Just give me something, man. I want some.
Been a major success if it was a game that catered to fans of the Arkhamverse, because this is part of the Arkhamverse. It is supposed to be the same versions of the characters we had previously seen, and they took everything.
That's what I say. It's even more wild in how they did Batman over in the end. The fact that it's supposed to be in the Arkhamverse. It's just like that initial trilogy of games. And then they did that to Batman. What the fuck, dude?
They had that amazing foundation and completely threw it away and decided, you know what, we're going to modernize the Arkhamverse. We're going to have a strong independent Harley. We're going to have, gender-swapped characters, right? Like gender-swapped lesbian Mrs.
I don't say, have you seen Mrs. Freeze? For me, it ain't even so much the gender swap thing that's funny about that whole situation, is that Mrs. Freeze legit looks like the most stereotypical, because she's supposed to be lesbian character ever. It's like, dude, it's so funny.
Freeze, who nobody freaking asked for, we're going to crap on the legacy of amazing characters like Batman, and all in the name of modernity. And then, of course, they hired Sweet Baby Inc. to help, which was just another issue on the pile of
everybody loves Sweet Baby
problems. Of course, we know modern Rocksteady is not the company.
That's it, Rocksteady. That's the ones who developed the Arkham games, isn't it? Bangers. They were renowned, weren't they? And then pushed into this. It's a shame. It's a shame when publishers look at game developers who are really good at a specific thing. This is what they do, and they do it well. And they go, right, we want you now to make this game for us because this is going to create a reoccurring revenue supply. It's just like, but that's not what they do. It's not what they're good at. I get it. You might want that. But like, get somebody else working on it and then keep these guys doing what they do well. And, you can make both sets of money then, potentially. But no, they take the guys who are really good at this one thing, stick them on a thing they're not good at, and lo and behold, you get a fucking shit show.
To be there, a shell of the company they once were. And, they're filled, it seems, with activists. There's tons of activists at the company. So there's just, a plethora of issues that led to this massive failure. It says, though, Suicide Squad, meanwhile, was panned by critics and called disappointing by Warner Brothers Discovery boss David Zaslav last quarter, and resulted in a $200 million impairment charge in that report. Yeah, David Zaslav said that it was a very disappointing release for them. They expected it to do better, but how can you expect something to do better when you take an amazing series of games and you completely throw them away? And just
the problem is you've got some of these people who are just suits. They don't understand why the game would be successful, what would make it successful, and why it's not successful. So of course, when they see the numbers, they're like, what the fuck happened here, man? I was told by these bunch of people here from this freaking company that's supposed to come in to tell us how to make the game better, that this is how we're gonna make money. It's a problem sometimes in these companies, and obviously these are businessmen. But this is why, again, when I was speaking before about listening to the communities, not taking everything from the community, but trying to listen to the community and ignoring the vocal minority, especially in these consulting companies and in journalistic spaces and such. Listen to the fans and you'll make good content. It's all you need to do. Appease the fans. Make something fun that puts the fans front and center. and you'll probably have a success.
Decide to basically restart from scratch and try to tear down that legacy that people have so much love and nostalgia for. The Arkhamverse games are amazing, and they really didn't have to do a lot. They could have taken that combat system.
And again, this all goes back to as well with games having such massive budgets nowadays. I think sometimes people want to add it to all these different things as well, but sometimes it can be something as simple as the budget. This is why we get so many sequels or games using an IP, but it's not the same IP. It's a totally different game. It's almost a different genre. It's a totally different thing altogether, but they're attaching this old IP to it because they're spending so much money on development. They're fearful of trying new things. They're fearful of trying new IPs because typically sequels over the years tend to be more successful because it's a household name almost. And this is why the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era were like golden days of video games in a way, that because there were so many AA games back then, and companies were willing to take a risk because development costs were much lower. The risk and the return on investment potential was so much higher, and the risk was so much lower that you could have all these different types of games coming out, and that feels like that's when we really had some. And I'm not saying we don't have people trying new things nowadays. We do, but it seems to be more in the indie space, doesn't it? And then bigger companies try to follow that on kind of thing. But I feel like we had a lot more of that back in the late 90s, mid 2000s, because games were just so much cheaper to create then. Nowadays, when you've got companies spending upwards of 100, 200 million to develop a video game, they're going to play it safe, aren't they? They are going to play it safe. They're going to use tropes. They're going to try and use household names, household characters, because, hey, this is going to sell, right? This is how it works, right? And it's the same thing in the movie industry as well, isn't it? Because things cost so much money. We don't really get anything unique and new and interesting.
Updated it a bit, highlighted different characters, and then actually made money. It's really not that hard of a concept. When you have something people love, you continue with that formula, not completely scrap it, and that's what they did with KTJL.
I don't think you necessarily have to do that, though. Continue with that formula. Say if you've got somebody like Rocksteady, this is why Hideo Kojima pulled away from Konami, didn't he? He didn't want to keep making Metal Gear Solid games, which I get that. You've got a genius, creative mind who wants to make new, interesting things. And sometimes the new, interesting thing might not work, but I think that's how you get to the gems, But again, we go back to the cost. Things cost so much money that can't take those risks. This is why the indie market now is so interesting. Even though I'm not a big indie player, it's leading sometimes. You get really successful indie games and then AAA games take a little bit from it, and you might get something good out of that, but it just doesn't feel the same anymore, does it?
JL. Warner Brothers isn't doing good in totality. Speaking of impairment charges, Warner Brothers Discovery undertook a massive one this quarter outside of games. The company reported revenue of $9.7 billion, but
an impairment charge is a practice businesses use when they need to write off or report a reduction in the value of some of their assets that they previously thought would have higher value. Okay, I needed to read that because I didn't actually know what an impairment charge was.
An overall net loss of $10 billion, $9.1 billion of which was due to impairment charges. Officially, Warner Brothers cited the charge as due to the difference between market capitalization and book value, continued softness in the U.S. linear advertising market, and uncertainty related to affiliate and sports rights renewals, including the NBA. So they're just not doing good at all right now. But because of this, kill the Justice League situation, people are on social media absolutely roasting them because, of course, they just released Mrs. Freeze again.
As well, it's really not the time to be doing bad in the gaming industry, is it? Post-COVID, post-gaming expansion. We're having a contraction anyway, so you really don't want to be making massive losses now, or on like a downtrend in usage. Not because games are getting smaller, the industry's getting larger, because we had a massive expansion in the COVID time because everybody was at home. it wasn't a natural expansion. You know, it was like a massive freaking blip in the trend, wasn't it? And it's coming back down now. Obviously, it'll continue to grow over time, but we're having that contraction now, and a lot of companies were seeing layoffs and stuff. So it's really not a time to be making massive losses.
Gender swapped Victor, whose name is Victoria, and she's also, yes, a lesbian, that
he wasn't a fan of Death Stranding, but I can appreciate the walk off a cliff. Exactly. That's what I was referring to when I was saying, you know, they might not always hit, because there's some people who really love Death Stranding, and I still have yet to play it, so I can't really comment on it. But I know that there was a lot of people that was like, yeah, it just didn't hit, like, and that's what happens, isn't it, when you take risks? You know, sometimes things just don't hit. As long as you can try and break even, and then you know you can be like, okay, right, sweet, we didn't lose on that, let's move on, kind of thing. I think we are in a world now where, you know, you've got too many developers that look at games like Call of Duty and see how many box sales did they get? 20 million. Well, we need to be in the millions, when not every game's going to be at that level, and they should take that into account when they're creating the budget for development. You know, and be like, right, let's spend a little bit less money, but let's be profitable, and we can take a little bit more risk. But everybody wants to be the big AAA flashy GTA type game, don't they? When it's just like, it's not going to happen for everybody.
Nobody asked for whatsoever. And previously, we had gotten the awful Joker DLC. They just have no clue what they're freaking doing or how to make money. There's tons of threads online already. And by the way, I cannot
Wait, yeah, that ain't the game, bro. What the fuck?
Keep a straight face whenever I see this Joker image. It's truly just awful.
For a maniacal maniac, he's got some good teeth, you know. I always notice that when a lot of people do, and I'll go, yeah, British talking about teeth. But I always think that sometimes with characters in especially when you're not dealing with a live action person, and you've got like this maniacal character that just, like, you know, their body's broken and battered from the fact that you know, they're just crazy, and then they smile, or and it's like, dude, your teeth look amazing, man. At least you're looking after your teeth. Fair play. Brushing twice a day, right? Flossing, good to see.
It breaks my heart to see how far Rocksteady has fallen in the past 10 years. I completely agree. I love the other Arkhamverse games. They did such an amazing job. Even Arkham Knight, which was not my favorite, was still a great ending. And then they decided to revive the Arkhamverse to try to make money, but they didn't even give us anything good. They could have made a lot of money if they simply listened to what gamers actually wanted. The small, loud, angry group of gamers you insult on a daily basis, and they're just driving away.
This is one thing, though, I will agree with. There is quite a few people involved in the gaming industry now. Not the majority, but there is definitely, and we've seen them, they've vocalized this, you know. I can't remember individuals right now, but I think we've all seen videos of people talking about it, and probably seen the posts as well, that there is developers out there that genuinely seem to dislike the consumer they're providing a product for, which I think when you're creating something creative, it's gonna be a problem at the end of the day, isn't it? Like, you know, and I'm not saying it's an issue, you know, you can sell stuff to people and still be like, oh, fucking hate these, you know, somebody who might make freaking alcohol, be like, I fucking hate people who drink, I'm sick of pissheads, but you know, you sell alcohol, that's fine. I just think this is why we get quite a lot of products that don't align with what gamers want, because we've got a portion of the industry that doesn't necessarily like gamers, you know, doesn't like what they want, and kind of want to give them what they think they should like sometimes.
Laughing.
Not accusing Suicide Squad of this per se. Some games definitely feels like they're trying to push that on people a little bit.
Say that we're ists and phobes and we're a small group of people, loud vocal minority, but that's not the case. The majority of gamers.
There is a loud vocal minority, but the silent majority tends to agree with a lot of the people who are saying it online, you know, because you see it with the games, because they just flop. So it's not a minority at the end of the day.
Did not like this title, and if you take to SteamDB, you can see there's only a couple hundred people playing, and the new character just released.
I'm a creative, but I hate it when other creators look down on their customer. Yeah, I think especially in the creative space, I think that you need to kind of have a connection with your consumer, don't you, really? Beyond not even just looking down on them, because you're trying to create for them. And I think if you not only don't fundamentally understand them, but you actively see them as an issue, I don't see how you can ever really create something that's gonna like vibe with them, you know, that's gonna reach out to their soul and engage them, because you don't even think the same, you know what I mean? You will not even think the same. You actively uh, find distaste in the way they think and what they want.
Only 2 weeks ago, they don't know how to get people back into the game and bump up their player numbers because there's
That's not
really
going to happen now.
nothing
It's
that
not
they
going to
have to
happen now, is it?
offer
You know,
you.
it's not going to
And
happen
not
now.
even that long ago, I
think Warner Brothers have probably accepted quietly in the back room that this game is a write-off. You know, I think it's one of those. It's not going to be a No Man's Sky situation. You know, it's not going to be a Rainbow Six situation. This game's done for, you know, no less than something like Concord. Concord's not going to come back. It's not going to ever get there. You know, the game needs to go free to play on launch, in my opinion, and it will go free to play at some point. But they did a trailer for a new character yesterday, and I watched a little bit of it, and it just looks, the gameplay looks bad for that character. It looks really bad.
Put out some information in a video. Sources reached out to me and said that Warner Brothers is panicking. They don't really know exactly what to do when it comes to Rocksteady. There were rumors circulating that they were going to go through massive layoffs, that like half the employees there were going to get laid off, that maybe they were even going to shutter Rocksteady. But right now, it actually seems that maybe their focus has shifted because, according to rumors, they are looking to license their franchises to other game developers with 11 studios and numerous IPs. The company has seen significant external interest. So this could turn out to be something, or it could turn out to be nothing. But it seems that because Suicide Squad was such a major failure.
Oh, fucking hell. Camouflage, a Meta-owned studio.
They're scrambling to try to find ways to make money now. DEI is a kiss of death. If you work with Sweet Baby Inc. or a narrative consultation company that's similar, if you put a focus on DEI...
That's what it is. It's about the focus. Like, representation isn't inherently a negative thing at all, and I don't think anybody's arguing that is. This is not a hot take. You know, it's just when you put it front and center. You know, we were mentioning this when we were reacting to the stuff regarding the Chinese developers. Like, their header for the company was talking about creating fun games that people want to play, where, like, a lot of companies now, they put the front and center of them being an inclusive corporation that strives to make everybody feel welcome. And you're making fucking video games, man. You know, that should be a thing that you just inherently do. But don't focus on that. Make a fucking good game first.
Over good storytelling and good character development.
No, you ain't going to be able to be inclusive if you have to sack everybody because you fucking fail.
Your product is going to fail. And maybe these companies will learn this eventually. Maybe they'll see a failure like Suicide Squad and go, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction with our...
I think they will eventually. I do. Everything's cyclical at the end of the day. I've spoken about this multiple times. I think there's only so long these companies can continually lose money and not see the wood through the trees. Now, I think some of them do, but they want to pretend that we can still make this the main focus, and somehow we'll hit that gem at some point and people will love it. But I think they are going to start to understand that, right, we need to get back to making video games first and foremost, and everything else can be attached to it afterwards if you make a good game, you know? But it's just how long that will take. I think it might be sped up. Like I said, it just depends on what China do in regards to making video games. You know, if they start to branch out and make really interesting, unique stories that engage people from all over the world, it's kind of almost over for Western developers, because first and foremost, they definitely want to make fun games. And I'm talking outside the realm of gacha as well. I'm talking about premium games, live service games that are not gacha games as well. You know, I think we are going to see the West pivot back to that at some point. It's just how long that it's going to take them, you know, because shareholders are only going to wait so long before they like demand a change. I know the people who might be running these companies are not going to be able to accept it because they've got a viewpoint on how the world should be, but shareholders at some point to be like, you know what, we need to get somebody in who's going to start making us money. This is just not working. So it is going to change. It's just how long it's going to take to change. You know what I mean?
Coming products, but I highly freaking doubt.
People don't hate inclusion. They hate badly written inclusion. Perfect. Exactly. You know, this is the problem. It's when it feels forced, isn't it? And it's when it's almost like becomes stereotypically forced as well. And it's like tokenized as well. Sometimes it's like, it almost feels, I feel like, obviously I'm not one of those groups, but for the most part, because I'm a straight white bloke. So of course I'm the bad guy. But if I was one of those groups, I'd feel a little bit more offended, because I'm like, you're just attempting to butter me up here, and you're doing it in a really shitty way as well. Rather than creating something really good for different groups that make sense, they just try and flip things at the last second, or force things in, or shoehorn things in that just don't work.
Doubt it, because companies double, triple, and quadruple down all the time on their mistakes. So it will be interesting to see if anyone else affiliated with Rocksteady comes out and says anything, if we get any other information. But right now, the Suicide Squad flop has led to a 41% drop in Warner Brothers gaming revenue.
The smart ones wouldn't have gone in the direction in the first place. True. The smart ones have already changed direction. True. Yeah, like when they include fat and ugly women, when to include women, like, dude, what? The Mrs. Freeze thing's perfect thing. Like, I haven't really got a major issue with them being like, you know what? Because at the end of the day, when you're dealing with comic book stuff, I ain't got an issue with race swapping and gender swapping, because it's comics. There's multiverses, there's retcons, there's different versions, there's instances that happen and only happen in one actual comic edition, and then it never happens again. So there's like variations on all the stuff. So coming out with a Mrs. Freeze and it being a woman's like, okay, cool. But then to say, all right, it's a lesbian, okay, cool. But then to make her look like the stereotypical butch lesbian with the hairdo and everything, it's just like, bro, like, what the hell, man? Like, come on, dude. Like, if I feel like if I was a female lesbian, which I'm evidently not, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck, man? Like, come on, bro.
But that's all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.
All right, yeah. Another video from Vera the Dark Titan Media. Yeah, I like some of the videos she puts. I like to react to this sort of stuff sometimes, you know. Sometimes, I must admit, some of this content gets a little bit, because, like, you know, a lot of it is, like, anti-woke stuff. But I do like her content, especially when you see, and at the end of the day, I never like to see people lose their jobs, and I don't like to see IPs failing, and people that make things that I enjoy failing. But I think it is funny to laugh at them sometimes, to say, look, just get your shit together, man. Just stop this dumb shit and get back to making good things. You're not politicians. You're not activists. Stop trying to be them. You make video games, and just get back to making good, fun video games. You know, it is. Sometimes you yearn for the times of, remember when video games had none of that in them. It was just like, right, here's a little cool video game. Have fun. But like nowadays, it's like so much political activism added to him. You know, whether it's at the forefront or it's behind the scenes or whatever.